All right, guys, welcome back to Table One Podcast. Justin Young, Art Parmann, and our special future guest, or past guest, I guess, Brian Rast will be joining us in probably a few seconds.
Yeah, if you haven't, this is part two
Yeah.
of our Brian Rast interview. It's really good, so we had to split it into two. If you didn't watch part one yet, go back and watch that one. It'll be the video before this.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure he has a passionate take on something, and he's about to have another passionate take on something else.
Yeah, in this part of the interview, we are progressively more drunk. So it gets better from here,
true.
or worse, depending on. Yeah, we had to bring him down to our level, so we've fed him beers.
Modelo's went down easy.
They did. All right, enjoy.
Me and my buddy, we making all of this money. Yeah, I know it's rude to be bragging. They never catching us slacking. Me and my buddy.
All right, where should we go from here? Go ahead, Justin.
I personally want to hear about you playing like the Super High Roller Bowl stuff, like the whatever, the $1 million like 1-for-1 drops, the 500K buy-ins, like this stuff is
just kind of like what I was thinking, and
I just like how like I don't want to know like exactly how much your bankroll you're risking or anything like that, but like kind of the motivation or like the mindset, like when you go into
what
these
happened.
I do want to know about the bankroll stuff.
Bankroll stuff would be fun too.
So
There's like
the first one drop was obviously something like super different at the time. I believe it was 2012, and you know it was one of those things where, dude, no one had. I mean, 100K tournaments were like the biggest tournaments, and they were rare.
They were
I believe
tiny,
maybe like WPT was doing the alphas or whatever,
Right,
and
Alpha
that
8s,
was
yeah.
you know, and those were like the biggest ones, and then really. Maybe was the 25K WPT still happening at that point? I mean,
it was. Yeah,
the two biggest tournaments of the year was the WSOP main event and then the 25K WPT.
That's right.
Right, and then then the 100Ks were like large buy-ins, but they didn't get that many people. So but a million was just something.
it's a made up number. It seemed like it's like
Crazy.
a bajillion dollars. Like well, I don't have a bajillion dollars.
What really happened is, I had kind of, by 2012, reached a spot where I thought I was one of the best, like, live No Limit Hold'em players. And I was mostly cash, but at this point now I had played, like, some tournaments and started to feel, I don't even know if the Aria stuff had happened yet, but I felt like this was going to be pretty deep. And some of it was just like, I knew that because Guy was running it and the way they were setting it up, it sounded like there were going to be a lot of soft players. And so even though there was rake, it was kind of like, I think I probably have edge. And I felt like I could probably sell enough to get in the tournament, is what it sort of boiled. And I had to sell a lot. I mean, I sold something like 85%, had a couple like 1% swaps maybe or something, and I probably had like 11% of myself or something like that, 12%. Something.
Makes complete sense.
Which,
to me.
by the
So-
way, is still 100,000
That's a lot of
plus
money.
of risk.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was at the time it was the most risk I'd ever taken on a tournament, right? Like, I almost had to be, because like having 100,000 risk, like there wasn't even tournaments bigger than that. Like I had probably played a couple of I never traveled for tournaments back in the day. Never. I think I played one of the alphas that was like in Vegas. And I didn't have 100% of myself in that or whatever. So like I had never had this much in a tournament ever, but it seemed like it was going to be good. Actually, it turned out that tournament was great. Half the tournament were like not good, like not even like good amateurs, like a lot of just not good kind of fish. And yeah, I probably, even with the one drop like donation, I probably had pretty nice edge for sure. And I do think I was a very strong, very, very strong no limit player back then. And, I actually, a lot of times back in the day, man, I'm an old man now. This doesn't happen nearly back then, but I used to run up stacks a lot on day one. Like a lot of the tournaments that I used to play, I would be like one of the chip leaders by the end of day one. Mm-hmm. And that one, sure enough, I was up there. I'd run up chips. One of the things I realized is that a lot of people in the tournament, like fish and good players, they were playing like very careful $1 million buy-in. So I just was very natural for me to be aggressive. So I'm like, great, let's just go.
So you didn't have a problem like thinking, oh, this is $1 million tournament. Like the moment didn't overtake you. Like you kind of reverted back to your, I don't want to say back to your 25, 50 days or whatever. Like you reverted back to like, this is just poker. Poker's poker.
Yeah, and I mean,
this is a spot,
that's also why I sell that much action.
Yeah, right.
Like,
Exactly.
yes, it was a huge spot for me, but it's like I had enough money that like, you know what, that whatever I lost, like it would suck, but you know, I was going to be okay. So, you know, I think one of the things throughout my career that helped is I always was very good with that. Like I was not a degen, like when it came to that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I was pretty good about like bankroll stuff, and almost never was I ever playing in a spot where it's like, oh, this was some huge, and it's like, oh, you know, I don't know. You do think about the amount of money, and it's not like, I mean, obviously it's not like, oh, I'm selling these pieces so I can just gamble, but no, I'm selling these pieces so I can sit there and just try to make the best decision and not be like, oh man, like I need to be risk averse because I'm playing for so much money right now. Because then I'm not making the best decision, right? Like that's really what it boils down to. So, yeah, so, you know, I played that one. I ran up, I think at the end of day one, I think Antonio and I were like the 2 chip leaders. And then he had a great day 2, and I struggled some on day 2. And then, you know, we both made the final table, and pretty fun final table. Helmuth was there. I think Guy was there also, and some other people. Sam Trickett was there, and
How do you know that?
yeah.
Sorry.
Man, I got one of the like, you know how you have, I don't remember many hands from a long time ago, but the hand Trickett busted me on and I went out 6th is a hand I will never forget for the rest of my life, unless I get Alzheimer's, God forbid.
How many people got paid in that tournament?
I think it was like 8 maybe or
Okay,
something,
yeah.
8 or 9 or it was like the final table only got paid.
You're just barely in the money.
I think it was 8. With 6th, I didn't even get 2 buy-ins.
Okay.
I think I got 1.6. So
Right.
it was kind of like, okay. And like first was like 18 million. So they had like a really top-heavy payout structure. Anyway, Trickett opened UTG 6. I flatted button with Ace Jack of Hearts. Solver, I didn't know back then, but 100% solver approved. And actually, it's a pure play nowadays with ICM, and he covered me in whatever, it would pure flat. Anyway, Antonio calls either the small blind or the big blind. The flop is like 10, I don't know, but it was like something like 10 high.
A wet dream, basically.
With all hearts.
A wet dream.
So I flopped the nut flush.
Oh shit.
Check. Trickett bets. I call. I don't remember if Antonio calls. I think he folds. Turn. Doesn't pair the board. Trickett bets. Listen, this is a tournament. His bets weren't huge, but he geometrically like sized the turn to have like a 2/3 pot river shove on the end. So I'm like, raising here just feels stupid. Like, especially with my hand. Like,
Exactly. Yeah.
maybe I raise here with like small flushes if somehow I flatted him with like the 7-6 of hearts, but like nut flush, like he's just drawing dead so much. So just call. And then river pairs the 4. He thinks for a while, and I'm just like looking at him like waiting. And then he's like all in. I like snap call and like go to turn over my hand, and it's one of those things I very much remember, like people looking at my hand, because like this is a massive pot. This actually ended up being one of the largest pots at the final table, right?
Equity wise, it's probably worth
I
like
wasn't,
8 million. Or
I
something.
wasn't the shortest stack, and Trickett was I think second in chips at the time. And so like I'm turning over my hand. I obviously like am thinking I won, and then as it happens, it's one of those moments where people start standing up. Trickett is like. Doesn't wait that long, but it feels like a while, and turns over his hand, and I'm like, stand up, and I'm looking, and I'm like,
Why is he showing his hand?
looking at the board, I'm like, holy fuck, he has quads. He has quad 4s. And then I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden it's that like sad moment, because listen, here I am, the biggest tournament I've ever played, playing for first place. I'm like having so much fun, just fully, because I'm a person who, it's like when I'm under pressure, I perform better. This is as much pressure as you can get. So I'm like, fuck, I'm like loving it, like in the moment. Then all of a sudden, it's that depressing feeling where like, oh no, like it's all over.
Yeah.
The fucking merry-go-round got it. It's like, it was the musical chairs and all 5 of them got a
yank
chair,
that chair
and my
out.
chair's gone. And now I've got to go. Like the fun is over. And so I think I do that thing where it's like I don't know what to do, so I start unnecessarily like putting my chips forward, like no one else is gonna do it, I think, and then I just like shook everyone's hand and walked off. And then it was also one of those things where it sucks because obviously the hand's so visible. So like for the next like 2 or 3 weeks, everyone's like, man, dude, I saw that hand, and you're just like, it sucks being reminded about the hand like 10 times a day, you know, because already, but whatever. I know people mean well, but it's like, oh, hey, that like kind of depressing thing, like let's relive it right now. You weren't thinking about it, but think about it again.
I love the way you played it, but let's talk about how you lost. Yeah.
But the even better part is when other people are like, man, dude, why didn't you raise the turn? And you're like,
Oh yeah.
shut the fuck up.
A, he's not folding.
Yeah.
Oh, whatever. B, you're catching all the bluffs. But yeah.
That was great. That was a beautiful ride
So
along.
anyway, that was that tournament, and then I just that whole stretch of time, you know, up to 2015, I think, with the 500K, and by that time now the ARIA tournaments were going,
Yeah.
and I had started playing more tournaments, and now I felt very comfortable that I was like high EV in the biggest no limit tournaments for that stretch, and so I was just like gonna buy in, you know, I was winning at tournaments, and I was gonna buy into the biggest ones. And it wasn't really start until like later in that decade, like post solvers, when I started to be like, maybe my EV is not so good in these anymore, and I'll be a bit more choosy about it. But yeah, there was a good stretch there where,
I mean, that's still taking the initiative, just like fucking grabbing the bull by the horns. You're like, the big buy-ins are here. Like, I'm playing at the highest level and just hopping in. That takes some balls to be doing that. So props to you for that. And then also recognizing on the back end that you're like, okay, well, I'll be, like you said, a little more choosy.
Still, like the tournaments he's playing nowadays, there's still all the Poker Go stuff, which I personally love the room. I love the idea, everything about it. I'm sure we'll see you in a couple days there, maybe, yeah.
I would say one of the things in my career that I always had is I was always willing to try stuff and see and kind of put myself in difficult situations and evaluate what was happening. And so, you know, and it's kind of good. And I feel like a lot of the times I was also able to not take it too far, like also evaluate, like maybe, you know, I think I actually wrote an article about this once on my blog, but it's kind of like, it's like, if you want to look at it as a spectrum of being confident versus being analytical, and like the downside of that being that'd be like the good way of phrasing it, and like the reverse of the coin or the ugly side would be arrogance versus kind of paralyzed by fear.
Yeah.
You know, I think I've done a pretty good job of like, I'm not saying there were times I was just like right in the middle, but like navigating that like pretty well. And you just, because really the ultimate goal as a gambler is to just be 100% realistic about what the EV is and like what you think you can know and can't know about that determination. And so I think I've done a better job than most throughout my career of straddling that. I don't want to say I mean, when I was younger, I probably erred more on the confidence side, but yeah.
No, I think it's good. I'm sorry.
You're right. You're the best.
I'm all over the fucking map when it comes to me personally, but like, yeah, I do think it's an art. It really is. Like, yeah. But no, it's a tough thing for any poker player to do because like you get too far on this side, inevitably something's gonna just fucking like yank you back into the middle or whatever.
Yeah.
Like some reality, like going 0 for 20 in tournaments, like having 10 losing sessions in a row in cash, whatever it is. But like it's, you know, and you get over here, sometimes you got to yank yourself back the other way, and like that's the tougher part I think for most poker players when like they're playing like paralyzed by fear, the way you put it, and it's tough to like pull yourself out of that like thing because like everything's going wrong, nothing's going right. I need to do something different, and like usually tight controlled pots are like the way like you make money. And it's really hard. Like 2 years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, I was on a huge downswing in cash. Just I won't mention an amount, but like it was the first day of the World Series, and it was a $100,000 25K bounty event.
Oh yeah.
And this is the toughest field of the toughest
That
field
was
of this.
that was the
field.
worst field. I remember
It
playing that,
was
and I was
awful.
like, wow, that field was bad.
So I'm literally just like thinking like, okay,
yeah.
like I'm on this huge downswing. My bankroll is this, which this is barely bigger than this, if you know what I mean. Like, I mean, the 100K buy-in. So like, I just have enough at the table. I'm playing cash. I'm like, I just lost another big pot. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go play the 100K bounty. Who wants a piece? Cricket, 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 cricket. I'm like, fuck you guys. I'm going to play it. And I go to play, and I just see the field. I'm like, this was a bad decision.
Yeah.
But like, this isn't like a huge success story. Like, oh, and I won the event. I did not. I didn't even cash the event. But like, I got to a point where I was just like, you know what? You play this event for a reason. I'm gonna be myself. And I just like turned a corner, like maybe 3 levels in, and I just started playing back at these guys that like I fear so much because I know how good they are. And like all of a sudden things just kind of fell in line. I ended up picking 6 bounties, and the only reason I didn't cash is because fucking Chance Corneth put a bad beat on me. Like I was a chip leader. Me and David Peters were a chip leader, like near the bubble, and like he put in like 45 blinds with ace jack against my queens, and I lost, and like whatever. The rest is history. But like either way, like it was so fucking exhilarating to like. I was basically going towards this like path of like I'm gonna have to play tight. I was like, no, you know what? I'm just gonna fucking put it a lot on the line right now, just to snap me out of this like funk I'm in. And it was probably a bad idea. But that being said,
I know exactly what you're saying. I'm gonna interject with one quick thing because I had another thought before I'm gonna tell a similar story, which is the exact same idea. But like, first I just wanted to say, I guess another reason why I ended up being able to play those tournaments beyond just like, let me give it a try, is I guess I played good enough I mean, like, let's be realistic. If I had whatever it was, 10, 12, 15% of my action, sold 850,000. So there were enough other people who I could find 850,000 worth of money of people
That's
who
so
wanted
cool,
to
by
take
the
a
way.
piece. So it's like, I mean, that's also another, that's confidence booster. Yeah. It's like, I ask and people wanted a piece. So like, that's part of it. Like
great
you
to
were
have
asked
people
that
who
question.
believe
I didn't
confidence
say
from
that
that,
initially,
yeah.
but that's obviously part of it. I'm like, hey, I think I'm going to try to play it. It's not like I walked or I couldn't get the money. Like I was able to get the money. And so that's, being realistic, that's actually probably the number one reason.
Yeah.
It's just, because I was able to sell enough action to do it, right?
That's great. Yeah, funding people who believe in you.
But okay, so about your story. So interjecting that in, what you're saying, it's like a huge thing. I'll remember, I was in a spot in my career where I was on a downswing. I don't remember exactly how much, but I wasn't doing well, and I was like a little bit low on confidence, right? Like, man, how am I playing? I remember I went to this poker thing in Canada where I forget what it's called, but it's like you play like 6 rounds, and then like the top point getters from each of those like little sit and goes like play like the final table, right? Like Phil Lack was there, Antonio, Jason Kuhn, Jeff Gross, Sorrell, a couple other people. And I remember it wasn't going well in the first. I think I played the first 2, then I had 2 off, and then I played the last 2. And I had didn't do well in the first 2. And I'm like, man, okay, no big deal. And then in the middle 2, I think they wanted someone to do commentary. So I went in and I did commentary. I'm like watching. This is one of the starts of like commentary good for your game, right? And so I'm in the commentary and I'm watching, and I'm like kind of pick, like these are guys who I'm playing with, and I'm thinking about stuff, and I go out and played lights out the last 2. Actually I needed like super good results. The 5th match was the one where you can still watch this hand where I make the sickest fucking call against Phil Lack for like a 7x shove. It's like this goofy hand where I don't think he realized the blinds went up, and he went to raise under the gun with like queen 7 suited at like a fucking 8-handed table. Like, great play, Phil, which by the way, Antonio points out like right after the hand. Anyway, I'm in position with like ace 8 suited, and I raise him, and then everyone folds and he calls, and it's like basically there's some board, and it's like I don't even remember the board. It was check, check, turn, check, check, and then river. I think it's like a flopped flush, and then the board like pairs high, like comes at like 10-10. And then he just like all in, and he covers me. So like my whole thing's on the line with this call. If I call and I'm out, I bust. And I'm just like, I'm thinking about it. I don't know. I ended up calling him. And so between playing great, making that call, having it being right, like my confidence was through the roof. I did enough. I made the final table. I played amazing at the final table. Like I had some weird goofy hand where I like 5-bet Sorrel with air and it worked. And I only busted because I got in like kings versus ace king and the guy hit an ace and I went out like 5th. Yeah. But I was just like, I feel like after those 3-4 where I was in the booth, I think I was playing the best of anyone there and just smashing everyone. And then my confidence was high. I went on a heater for the, like, I just won after I left there. Yep. So I just totally identify with the idea that, you know, things aren't working out, you're on a downswing, confidence is low, and something changes, something clicks, and all of a sudden you start making some really good plays, you get a little bit of that positive reinforcement, like, okay, maybe I still got it, maybe I don't suck at poker, and it builds on it a little bit, and then, you know, obviously some element of luck changing as well, because you could play great and still get smashed, but sure. But it works out, and you end up recovering and playing great and winning from there. So yeah, the same thing happened to me, and that's my moment in my career that I really remember, and it's really easy to pinpoint because that call is memorialized on YouTube. So you can go look up Rast and Phil Locke, and you can watch me make this stupid call that a solver would never do with my hand, because I'm just like, he's got to be bluffing. And it's like you're supposed to just pass when the guy goes 8x the pot all in, which isn't even a thing. But like, I was just like, how can he have
bet,
it?
Phil.
I'm like, Phil just thinks he can come bitch me around all the time. But this isn't happening this time, buddy. I know you're bluffing, and I literally said this, I'm like, I can't respect myself if I fold this hand because I know you're bluffing.
Sometimes you just got to see the hand.
Yeah, no, like, no. If you bluff and I fold because it's like I'm going to wait for a better spot, I'll never live this one down because I know you're bluffing and I'm just going to pay. And if you somehow did this with value this time, God bless you. You're fucking next level, buddy.
That's a good hand, and that's a good turnaround too. Yeah, you both had a good fucking buckle up, and I'm a man. I am a poker player, and I'm gonna play poker.
There's some times where like all this stuff with poker comes down to this like rock paper scissors thing where of the leveling game, and you just gotta like figure out what's going on it, you know. And I just like knew it's like he knew that if I busted, I was out. Right. And it was just like, it didn't make sense for him to have value putting me all in the way this pot played. Like, he didn't bet turn. I'm just like, how can he have value here? Like, this is like the dumbest risk.
It's like quads or nothing almost. I mean, yeah.
Or no. I mean,
it could be queen.
It's not even quads or nothing. Like, obviously, he could have a flush or a full house or something. Sure. Like, I've checked back twice. Like, you know, that said, you know, it's like the best hand I probably ever have there would be like rivering trip tens. So, like, anything that can beat 3 tens really is like a reasonable value bet. But I'm just like, it's just more like in this spot right now, like, does he have it or doesn't he? And I'm just like, he just doesn't have it.
Just look in the eyes of the beast.
Like, you just know that I'm never supposed to call here to an all-in for 8x the amount that's in the pot. And so you're just doing that because I'm going to fold. But I'm going to surprise you by not folding this time. You know, and just calling you and just being like, whatever, man, I don't give a fuck. Yeah, if he had it there, it would all been over. I never would have made the poker call. I would have been like, wow, you're awful at poker. It's done.
He'd be a game theory professor at Stanford right now.
Brian Rast would be delivering us booze from Drizzly right now.
Yeah.
So I see you're wearing the Phenom Poker patch now.
Yeah.
All the success you've had in poker, in general, obviously you don't need to be supporting any kind of brand. Justin is an ambassador to Phenom Poker too. Table 1 has a code to Phenom Poker, which, you know, if you want to get on the waiting list, it's somewhere in the description below. But why? You know, tell the people. This is the thrill of the show.
Well,
so
I guess
you can shill away here and tell us why you like it and why you would attach your name to Phenom Poker.
Well, guys, if I'm on here, I also have a code, so you can go to my Twitter and get that one
Also
as well.
true.
Like, I don't know.
We
you
can
know,
put
you
this
like
on
me,
as
you like
well.
them. I don't care. It doesn't matter.
Like we'll
but
put
I'm saying-
table ones, we'll put
All right.
mine, we'll put Rast. We'll see who
So-
gets more.
We'll just call it. See who it comes to.
No, but the reason why I'm doing it is because, okay, I love poker. That said,
I love poker.
I love poker.
Josh,
so
I
much.
love poker.
We all know. But like, if I listen, if I love poker, then what I love the Bitcoins. Okay, so like, you can go for 2 years. Pinned to the top of my Twitter was like my thesis about like why you should invest in Bitcoin. I've wrote in other articles. I tweet stuff all the time. It's actually the thing that I'm like the most passionate about. If there was some magical button where like a devil was like, Brian, you have to sell all your Bitcoin or you can't play poker the rest of your life. Dude, I'm keeping my Bitcoin. Wow. You can go fuck yourself, man, because no one's taking my Bitcoin. I'm just telling you this right now. If you think you're going to torture me and get my Bitcoin, I'll die. No one's getting my Bitcoin. It's done. So just stay away.
You're never finding that ledger.
Stay away. Okay? Anyways, so like, but luckily, that's not a real choice.
Thank God.
So, but I'm just being dramatic, okay? But like, so it's something that I really believe in. I'm really passionate about. I mean, like, actually, I sort of bring this up as a joke, but I've actually had this thought. Like, I could be like so many people who just anonymously own it, but like, I love it so much and want to share it with people that follow me. That like, hey, I believe in this more than anything, and I'd actually keep my Bitcoin over playing poker. So like, I'm going to tell you why I feel this way, even if there's like some really super small security risk to myself for doing so. Like literally, I've thought about this. So I'm super passionate about it. I love Bitcoin. How does this get back to Phenom? So I'm in the crypto space already, of which Phenom is not the exact same thing as Bitcoin, but I've been in there. Like I've done a bunch of other things in crypto. I've been in the space now for 7 years, and I do think there are cool applications that can happen in crypto. One of which is like, okay, the U.S., land of the free, home of the brave, has some very interesting laws when it comes to poker and what you're allowed to do, and the UEIGA or whatever the fuck banking laws have not made it easy for poker players in the past. Black Friday happened, and there are applications of crypto which kind of get around the current laws. Like, it's not really illegal for you to play poker. It's not illegal for you to send money to a poker site. It's legal for banks sometimes to do it. So if a bank doesn't do it, then it's not illegal. So, one of the really fundamental kind of ideas of Phenom has with this is like, hey, let's send USDT or USDC and we'll accept that. And so like anyone can play from anywhere and no one's doing anything illegal.
That's right.
It's like a pretty cool idea. And now Americans can legally just play on Phenom Poker. And, obviously you could say there's some gray area on there and like maybe at some point in the future, will something happen? Well, here's the good news, guys. Another cool thing about this idea is that Phenom Poker is not going to hold any of your money. So if at some point in the future, anything ever happened and they're like, well, we want to crack down on this too. Well, guess what? Like, unlike Full Tilt Poker or Poker Stars, like if you had 100,000 or 20,000 or whatever's a lot of money for you on there, it's not going to get seized and now all of a sudden you don't have your money and you have to like wait for this to shake out, like what happened with Full Tilt Poker, because you don't have to trust Phenom as a counterparty. Like you only trust them with the money at the table while you're playing. So it's just there's other ideas in there with like the shuffling mechanism happening through like multi-sig with people at the table, so cards can't be hacked. They just have a whole bunch of really good ideas. And, I was involved with Virtue Poker. There were a lot of problems that happened there. I came in and I had literally had multiple pages of questions for Matt Vallejo about like, why is this going to work? Why is this going to be different? What about this? What about the token structure? All kinds of things about that. And I spent hours with him on multiple phone calls.
Matt Vallejo is the CEO of Phenom Poker, for those who
we
don't
had him
know.
on probably a couple months ago. Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, sadly, it's one of our lowest viewed episodes, but it's a really good one.
It really is.
With Matt. So you guys should go back and watch it if you haven't. It's all about Phenom. I have a crypto expert, security expert, my friend WSOP Quan on, and he asked him a bunch of questions about the site. tough ones, and Matt was like, "Oh man, you need to get that guy like a job in my office." And I was like, "He's out of your pay grade." But but he asked him a bunch of tough questions,
Yeah.
and it's a good interview. So you guys should go and watch that one if you haven't on Phenom Poker. It's I don't know, it's a few episodes back. You can find it.
But so listen, I spent a lot of time talking with Matt. I felt like he, by and large, had really good answers for most of the questions, basically all the questions. You know, a couple things, for example, some of the security stuff, there aren't necessarily like, hey, this is the great answer where like, you know, no one can ever cheat or card share on our site. But he had a lot of really good answers to that, coming down to like, here's why it's very clear, despite these other sites, which theoretically have all this money, like they're not really working hard to solve these problems, and gave, you know, XYZ reasons why, and said like, this is what we're going to do different. You know, when it comes to cracking down on cheating, card sharing, like these kind of things, and collusion. And so just went through a whole litany, and he had good answers. And at the end of the day, I decided, okay, like this is cool. I think like this site succeeding is probably going to be good for poker. Like the token is not like, they're not going to list it on any exchange, right? So, you know, it's basically really just a mechanism for people to kind of get almost like owning a piece that's involved with the rakeback of the site, and then later kind of having, you know, decision making or voting powers with it. I even went over kind of, you know, okay, so what does this mean? And so, for example, like early on, almost all the tokens are owned by the founders, investors, and people involved. So that means, you know, the players are going to have very little say when it comes down to it. I actually think that's a positive thing, because in the beginning, the site needs to be like tight, make good decisions, and like that doesn't make as much sense in order to like navigate the early waters. But then as time goes on, as the 50% of the tokens that are meant for the players get unlocked, as probably early founders and other people, they have some amount, it's never going to be more than that. So like if they sell or get rid of their tokens at any point, those tokens end up with people that are playing. So it's going to be more than 50% eventually of the players and like, you know, that own. So over time, essentially the decision making of the site becomes more decentralized, which I think is a feature. But even with stuff like that, I was like spitballing with Matt. I'm like, well, one of the problems with, you know, because like I've gotten recently, like randomly, like this is the problem with like the democratic institution of the U.S. is that like long-term problem solving like does not get valued, and you know this. So I'm like, you know, what about the idea that like the number one function that always needs to happen is the treasury needs to be able to redeem tokens. So then we were talking about it, and like, okay, so like maybe putting in like a minimum limit of amount that can be spent. So there's always something in the treasury. And Matt was like, great idea. We're going to add that. So it's like Matt just has this thing where not only is he really thoughtful, not only is he really intelligent, but he's willing to talk with everyone about whatever. He's willing to update and adapt what he's doing. So like he's not this closed-minded person. He's open. He knows he doesn't necessarily have everything figured out. He wants to hire good people. He's actually already brought in a company that's successful to fruition and made a bunch of money through that. And I think that's cool that he has a lot of experience and he's had a win doing something like this before. So there was just a lot of things that all lined up to me where I'm like, this makes sense. This really has a chance. There's a lot of good ideas involved. Ideas that I was already kind of interested in with Virtue, but that they didn't work out, that they weren't able to implement really, where I feel like Phenom took some of those, and not necessarily it's like, oh, they're copying them. Well, yeah, I mean, like someone using crypto to make a poker site, it's going to be overlap. But it's like, I think Phenom is taking the best of it, leaving the worst of that, and going to do it better. And yeah, I was just really impressed and was like, yeah, I want to be a part of this. And, you know, I think it working out will be good for poker.
That was good. That was a great.
I
great
submit
recap.
all that, man. That was.
I mean, I got lost on some of the technical stuff that I don't know anything about, but I think you did a good job explaining why you believe in it, and it definitely fits in with your mantra too. Of like, the one thing I've picked up from this conversation is that every time you're like on the threshold of something, you jump into it and you learn as you go. And like you said, you went into Virtue Poker. They were trying to do this on the cusp of this. Maybe they weren't as experienced of a team, weren't as willing to listen to players and other people out there, and then now you're like, okay, let's run it back. Let's do it with this.
Well, I'll give a really good example of something that Virtue was trying to do that didn't work. Is Virtue, like, they were funded by the Ethereum Foundation initially, so they were trying to make everything work on chain with Ethereum, and ETH is just like way too expensive, and that wasn't going to work. And maybe there's a few people in the poker community, like JMO, for example, who said that, and we're right. And so for example, Phenom is not trying to make this work on Ethereum. Like, they're running everything on Polygon, I believe,
That's
right?
right. Yeah,
Which is going to be like much, much cheaper and going to have kind of transaction costs where, not everything is going on chain, but like the actual table will be on chain. Like sending money to the table, boom, that's on chain. Now, not every hand is on chain because Virtue was trying to do that, but then cashing out on chain. But those transactions are fractions of a cent. So like cashing in and out of the table, fractions of a cent.
Right.
Like that's like doable even if you're playing like very small stakes. So
and you end up getting a lot of this back because, to your point, like you get tokens. Like it's their form of rake back. I mean, you also get rake back as well, but you're going to get like these ERC20 tokens on the way back, which gives you shares of the company. Not only does it give you say, but as the company grows, your rake back grows. Like it's quite simple, and it's very easily paddleable as like a layman like myself.
Yeah. There's also other ancillary benefits, I think, to like this structure. So here's one that came out of my conversation with Matt that Matt pointed out to me that I'm like, man, that's a pretty fucking good idea, actually. Like, you're right about this. Is like, so for example, one of the structures that all these traditional online poker companies need is they need a massive part of their operation is like the cashier money holding part, because you need something, the legal, the people to deal with accepting money, how you're storing it, how you're paying people out. And like Phenom basically just dumps having to deal with any of that by like simply it's all just automated on chain. The table holds the money, but when it's done, it's returned to the player. So the company doesn't need all these people involved with taking deposits and returning deposits and holding that money and the security involved with that. Actually, that's like a massive cost saving to Phenom Poker that like other sites have to pay for. So like you think like how much does it cost to run the site? Like Phenom itself doesn't have that whole expense. That's a huge expense that other sites have. So, I mean, that's something like, okay, hey, I want to play on there. I'm going to own the token and get some of the rake back. Well, that's like a feature now.
Yeah.
Like not only do you not have the counterparty risk, you also have like it's a way around having that whole expense as a company. So there's just like a lot of good ideas. And another thing that strikes me too that I like about Matt is like Steve Jobs has this really great quote about how when it comes to like things, like the idea is like way less important than people think. The idea is like 2% of it. The 98% is the implementation of the idea, the day-to-day problem solving that comes up all the time with like things and the management, the running, and too many people in life just think everything is about the idea. And ideas are important, they're part of it, but really what makes projects succeed at the end of the day is like who's involved, how they're solving problems, and because they're out there grinding it day to day. And like talking with Matt for hours and hours, I was just very impressed. And some of the proof in the pudding is going to be how he shows up with this. But like from what I've seen so far from being involved for a few months, again, very impressed with everything he's doing. Even give another quick example. I know a bunch of people in crypto. Matt was like, okay, so how is Phenom going to deal with, like, we're going to accept deposits on Polygon. Not that many people use Polygon. Mm-hmm. I've been in crypto for 7 years. I've never once had USDT on Polygon. And I'm like, I'm probably more in crypto than most people. So this is a pretty big barrier to entry on the site. Matt's thinking initially when I talked to him about this was like, hey, Link is going to help us with this problem eventually, like Link, the token. I ended up connecting him with like Brian Rast, who I'm trying to remember what company he runs, but basically whatever company Brian Rast runs like solves this exact issue. And now it turns out that at launch, I think they're going to use Paras's company in order to like bridge it so that basically USDT or USDC on any chain, most important being Ethereum, is going to be able to be accepted. Wow. That's like massive because almost everyone that uses USDT or USDC is using it on an ERC20 token on Ethereum, right? So like, I'm just saying that it's just like this thing where Matt is super available, talks with anyone. He's grinder. He's there. As someone who's involved, he's like answers messages, gets on a call anytime, talks to this person, always open. And I'm just like very impressed with that of how like flexible he is and problem solving. And I'm just like, okay, so like certain things, it's like, is this a problem now? Maybe, yeah, but it just seems like Matt is maybe the right guy to like solve it and work it out. And, you know, only time will tell. Obviously, you can never say ahead of time with startups, but I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you. Man, I'm super pumped. Sorry, I'm just not as verbose as you are or intelligent. But either way, love Phenom Poker. No, I just like all the ideas. Like, there's a bunch of like good people involved. Not just like the people up top, but like they've like handpicked ambassadors, and I'm not tooting my own horn or yours as well, but like they're purposely going after people with no controversy around them. They're not like with no struggles, no whatever.
Wait, is Howard Lederer not a
Right.
Phenom Pro?
That's a great example.
You know, Howard, I'm still waiting on my flip-flops with my FPPs I had left in my balance. I didn't get them. I tried to cash them in on Black Friday. My flip-flops never came. So if you're watching this, send them.
Well, yeah. And then, like I was signed to UB Poker actually right before Black Friday. I was promised the $5,000, I think it was $5,000 like sign-up bonus for being one of their ambassadors. After Black Friday, I was like, oh, cool. Where's my $5,000? Like, oh, it's on your account. And I was like, cool. Can I get it? And they're like, no, you actually can't get it at all. Like no one's getting their money actually. Like a very small percentage, but it's on there. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry.
If UB ever comes back, it's gonna be yours.
And one thing I like about the Phenom is just like there's an education component, right? Like there's a ton of people out there that play poker that have no idea about crypto. I mean, obviously crypto is more mainstream than it's ever been, but there's whatever mom and pop, whoever in Oklahoma that don't use crypto, but like Phenom Poker, by putting this out there, is kind of by nature they're going to have content about like how do I set up a wallet, how do I put money on, how do I play on this poker site, and like that type of stuff getting out there it's just really good for. I mean, there's going to be some sad stories of people blowing losing all their money in like a hack, but it's a personal security hack, like not taking care of their own funds, which is the only real downside of personal custody of all these funds.
Yeah.
But I mean, like you said, it takes the liability off of Phenom of holding all these funds and opening themselves up to like a big attack or legal liability and all the overhead that encompasses that you were mentioning. But I think on the whole, no matter how it runs out, this is good for poker. It's good for crypto, and it's hopefully it's great for Phenom Poker.
I'll tell you what, as someone who's been involved with crypto for years and years, and I'm like, listen, I'm not a what's it called, like a Bitcoin maximalist
Model?
in that
Oh,
sense. But I do believe that from a Sharpe ratio perspective, like what you should recommend to somebody who's investing in crypto, it's Bitcoin. It's not close for a bunch of reasons. Not going to get into it right now because I could, but this is going to be an hour, not like 3. But like
We're trying.
What I will say is at the intersection, it's like one of the problems really with crypto right now outside of Bitcoin is people have all these ideas and almost none of them are doing anything. Like very few actual crypto applications outside of having non-fungible tokens that have pictures that you think are cool that you want to own. Gambling on crypto by having like decentralized exchanges where you bet on the price. Or staking a token in order to get a return in that token, which is kind of cool, but also like what's really going on here, sort of. This is not a Ponzi. So I'm just saying, when it comes to these projects and all the other applications that they're supposed to do, like we could do decentralized voting, or Here's Augur. We'll have decentralized betting markets, which was one I was really hyped on. That's like still hasn't come to fruition. It's like none of this shit works. Like you have an idea, you've made a white paper, you've now sold a token, and nothing fucking works. Here we are years later. Good job, crypto. Buy Bitcoin. Don't fucking buy this other shit. Unless you're just a financial nihilist, because you're like, fuck the system. I want a dog with a hat because it's fucking cool. Fuck everyone. Dog with hat.
Dog with hat.
Dog with hat.
I just learned what that was.
But like, other than that, you're a financial nihilist and you don't give a fuck, or you want the real shit and it's Bitcoin, or you're just some idiot who's like, I want one of a million layer 1 tokens that are all going to do the same shit and none of them work. Okay, well, the layer 1 works, but none of the decentralized applications on the layer 1 do shit. Augur doesn't do shit. None of them do shit. And it's like, okay, well, what's great is here's an actual project that might use crypto and do something that has value. Okay, I've been like hoping for something like in the 2 areas where I'm kind of an expert to intersect, poker and crypto, and it hasn't really happened yet. Virtue didn't do it, but here we are with Phenom. And I'm like, okay, let's do it, because this would be very cool to actually have crypto like be used to provide value to a project, like other than just gambling on it or like staking to make more money in the same token, which I think is like very marginal and Ponzi-ish, even if maybe you can make money and you just have to get out at the right time. But buy Bitcoin.
Buy Bitcoin. Buy Bitcoin.
Bitcoin is not part of that.
It's not part of. It's not
Bitcoin is the hardest
Bitcoin
money
is
of
no
all
matter
time.
what, but also
I'll just say this: if I have to pick something where I go into cryo sleep and I wake up in 100 years, 80 years, and I have this, I'm not picking a stock. That would be fucking dumb. Okay, how many companies last 80 years?
Blockbuster. Oh,
Okay.
sorry. No, that's not,
I'm
that's
not
not
picking. I'm not even picking real estate, dude. The way like migration, cities, global warming, sea levels, who the fuck knows? I mean, like, real estate might be my second pick, but I'm not picking it. I'm picking Bitcoin, okay? I'm picking Bitcoin. I'm not even picking the US dollar, because even if the dollar doesn't default, in 80 years, if I put away $1 million, $1 million is gonna be like $150 of like purchasing power. So like, even if the US dollar doesn't default, which it might, you're still retarded for picking the dollar, because like your purchasing power will go down by like 1,000x. So it's like, it's Bitcoin. I don't even think it's very close.
are you gonna freeze yourself at the?
No, I'm not. This is a thought experiment.
I'm just curious. I'm kind of
really a thought
interested. I'm thinking maybe
Yeah.
it might be fun to freeze yourself. Futurama style. Freeze the old head. Come out in 200 years when everybody realizes the value of Bitcoin.
They realize it now, baby. We don't have to wait 200 years for that.
Press discovery. Up only.
I mean, it's a $1.3 trillion market cap today, $70,000, and within a couple weeks, it's probably going to be, I'm pretty bullish on the short term right now, but we'll see.
All right, we've talked a lot about Phenom, and I love it. I'm on board, obviously. I forgot my patch today, sorry. But either way, but we want to know about future, Brian, now. What are we going to do for this year? 2024, we got WSOP coming up. We got other Triton stuff coming up.
Yeah.
What's going on with you?
Yeah, so, I mean, I've been pretty bullish on, when I say bullish, I mean, listen, I'm very bullish about Bitcoin long term. But that said, starting mid last year, I was very bullish about the short midterm Bitcoin price for multiple reasons. One, the Bitcoin halving, which has been a big driver of 4-year price cycles and bullish activity in general, it's about to happen in a couple weeks. It's going to happen around April 20th. And so it's about 2 weeks from today when we're doing this podcast.
We better air this right away. People need to know.
But whatever, I mean, even if this is aired a little later, whatever. The halving isn't something that's like that. It's super bullish that day. 900 coins a day come down to 450 coins a day, and starting that day, and it takes months for that to really play out. I feel like with it's the bullish effects on price. But then Bitcoin's been doing super well, and I've been bullish because an ETF got approved, which I think is like very massive in terms of regular people who don't want to custody their own crypto but want to invest in Bitcoin being able to access the asset. So like they're now buying through brokerage accounts, which is massive for funds. It's massive for people with IRA accounts who have, tax advantage money, and a whole bunch of other people to be able to put money in there. So that's actually caused, for the first time, Bitcoin made a new all-time high prior to the halving. Previously, it's never happened before the halving. Bitcoin's also, I think, the only asset to ever have 4 80% plus drawdowns to then go on to make a new all-time high, which it just did recently. And so I kind of feel like this cycle is going to be quite bullish with the ETF demand inflow, which has already happened, kind of compounded with the halving supply cut. Right, supply and demand being the two big drivers of price for an asset. So, what am I doing? I'm trading.
I knew he was going to get there, guys. It's fine. Art was about to fucking.
I said I wasn't going to say why Bitcoin is valuable, but I couldn't help it.
Put Corona out my nose. I was going to be Justin's spit take on the last episode.
Nope. Put my beer away. All right.
I've been trading Bitcoin with the thesis that number go up, okay? As they say, NGU. And so that's been something I've been doing for quite a few months now. I'm going to keep doing it for the rest of this year because I still think the thesis applies. I don't fancy myself being a full-time trader, and I think when later this year or next year, I'm probably going to slow down with that. I'm going to play a bunch of poker this WSOP. Probably this year, I'm going to end up being a part-time poker player. Maybe I'll end up playing a little bit more poker next year. And I'm remodeling, or my wife really is remodeling our house in Brazil. That should be done at some point. Still working on the place here and just gonna enjoy my life.
So I have a serious question actually. So somehow I found one. So you have expectation for Bitcoin, which is clear. Your ROI for a tournament is X. Do you take that into account? I was like, I could use X or whatever, this Bitcoin to buy into a tournament, or I should just leave it in there because my ROI is not that high?
No, I actually, very good question, Justin. Excellent question. So what I'll say is this, is that due to some life choices having to do with house remodels primarily, I've had very large amount of outflow needed for money. And it has affected some of my decision making with regard to poker in that in the last, I'd say year, probably year and a half maybe is more like it. I haven't been playing the big game quite as much, mostly because I've been using, I don't want to get into it, but I have a pretty sick outflow of cash, and that has eaten into money that I'd normally have earmarked for poker. And I'm just so bullish about Bitcoin that if my choice is hey, I'm going to play this nosebleed poker game, but if I lost, I have to sell BTC.
Right.
No,
This just in, Brian Rast broke. Only digital coin money.
So actually, I had a pretty good year in poker last year. I won this and that, but as things have gone on, I'm remodeling a villa in Brazil and doing other shit, and I don't even want to get into this in this podcast, but I'm actually also remodeling my house in Vegas, which has been going on for way too long, and so it just. Eventually I'm going to be done with this stuff. But yes, the truth is that calculus has come to my mind. And the truth is that I believe that holding Bitcoin is
it's more profitable than Brian Rast?
Most profitable thing I can do. And so if I have to choose, I'm holding Bitcoin, which is also, early in this podcast, I basically alluded to that by saying that if I have to pick between Bitcoin and poker, I'm keeping my Bitcoin.
True, yeah.
You did say that.
So on that shoulder.
So, but that doesn't mean I don't play poker. I'm going to play the WSOP. Actually, I might play big during the WSOP again, because during the WSOP, I want to make sure I have a bunch of money available. I'm also, it's one of the things where I'm not going to be a part-time player during the WSOP. I'm going to be back. My brain is going to be active. It's like, here's the thing. If I don't play
big
poker
brain.
much for like a month, I might feel a little rusty. But if I'm playing poker every day, I'll get in there and gamble with anyone when it comes to like the big live mix or anything. So I'm gonna have money available. I'll probably play some of the big live mix. I'll be playing tournaments at the WSOP all the time, and in their gambling. And then at the end of the WSOP, we'll see what happens. And it might be the case that if I have a losing WSOP, let's knock on wood because it almost never happens, that I end up having to sell some Bitcoin. But you never know. I mean, I am 42. One of these
That's
years,
fucking old.
One of these years, age might catch up to me, But I'll tell you what, you young whippersnappers, take your best shot. Because if you come at the king, you best not miss, motherfucker. Okay?
Everyone's got to play until they get punched in the face.
Exactly. Sorrel taught me that lesson, okay?
There you go.
Oh, this came off the rails a little bit in the best way, and I'm very happy for it. All right. Is there anything else you want to leave the people of the internet with, like where they can follow you on social media, or
How you feel
your
about
direct
Bitcoin?
phone number if they want to borrow Bitcoin from you, anything like that?
Whoa, guys, let's go. I don't do
555
borrowing.
55.
I don't
55.
do staking anymore either. I'm out of those borrowing.
He's out of the
staking.
I hear
streets.
that's a
Ban
bad
for the
idea.
borrowing
It
and
really is.
staking
Yeah.
is just. I'm not saying
Actually,
you
wait,
couldn't
hold on,
make
hold on,
money
hold on.
staking, but like it's just hassle, and I don't know young talented poker players. So
Okay, so before we leave, I feel like we need one good gambling story from you. Somewhere in the archives, dig deep into that giant fucking brain of yours, which I know is humongous, and find us like a solid gambling story that you think the people will like. It can be about a staking failure, since you were just talking about that, or it can be just anything.
I mean,
That wouldn't be- that's not
Antonio.
I have a good.
You know Bill Perkins well. You know Antonio well. You know Bill Zarian well. Like I mean,
Sure.
something in
well,
there.
okay. So first, if you want to read about like a super fun my bike bets, I actually didn't want to forget these. So I literally later that year I wrote a 2-part blog. If you just type Brian Rast blog, you'll go to my website. There'll be blogs where you can read. My first blog entry was about the first 2 bets. Dan's bet, which I bet on, and then about the other bet where the guy bought out. And then my second, which was only about one of the bets, but it's longer because it's the one I actually had to do. I wrote a really long about my whole experience with the bike. And that was the most important one to me because I wanted to write that so that I could go back and remember all the details about that, because that was a really cool special experience. So go read that if you want, because it's actually very interesting. I mean, like it involves big money. If you're like gambling, you like bets, you like side action, you want to hear about this, what happens in some of those situations when people bet each other and disputes, because Dan's initial bet had a whole dispute about drafting, and
I remember that with the van, right?
so I get into all that stuff. So it's very interesting if you're a gambler. You'll probably like it. And then you'll also like the story about the man fucking overcoming difficulty and shipping something really tough.
man.
Okay? And when I say the man, I mean it more in the thing is like the man in the arena. That's what I mean more. It's like the man in the arena who's putting himself at risk, trying to do something difficult that he doesn't know whether or not he can do, but he's betting on himself to do it. That's right. And that's really what it's like. Bike 300 miles in 48 hours going into wind, like and breaks count as like part of the time. So I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. And really actually almost couldn't do it. I literally had like 80 minutes left on it. And like a doctor gave me a shot on the road. Like everything went into that and I almost didn't do it.
What was in the shot?
Tequila.
My knee was getting fucked up. My bike seat had slipped down and overnight on the second night, and it was too short, and my knee was starting to really fucking hurt, and it was getting to the point where it was like hard for me to continue biking. Like muscle soreness, I was dealing with all that, like no problem, kind of. I mean, it sucked, but my knee was.
Could you not change
Fucking
bikes
hurting.
out? Did you not have like a van next to you with like a spare bike?
No. I didn't know the seat had drifted
Oh,
down.
I see. That's
and
why
so
it
then
fucked up
that's
your
what I
knee.
figured
I
out.
gotcha.
So then it was like, yeah, we moved the seat up, but my knee was hurting.
Yeah.
And I got a cortisone shot and kept going. But like, anyway, so nothing was going to stop me. Nothing was going to stop me other than running out of time or like dying. No, like literally that was the mindset
Running
I
out
got
of
in.
actual time.
Like I'm like literally I'm like, I will die before I get off this bike. That was what I was telling myself in my mind. Like I was so fixated on it. Actually, it's like one of those intense things where when I was like almost there, now I'm like strung out. I had barely slept. I've just done something physically. I'm totally taxed. I could barely even hold a conversation when I was a few miles away. Like Dan was offering a buyout and I was like, no. And I just like with like that pause for like 10 seconds. And I'm like, no, I can't do it. And I was like, but like nothing. And then all of a sudden this like amazing mental kind of release. And then after I got it, I could actually maybe hold a conversation. But anyway, that's not my gambling story. Read the blog. It's cool. The gambling story is this. This is a fun gambling story.
Let's
So
go.
it's WSOP. I think this is pre-COVID. So let's say 5 years ago, something like that. 6 years ago. I don't know. Something like that. There's a game that's happening. I hear about it. I come to go play. It's in the afternoon. When I show up, there's no longer a game, but Matt Kirk is sitting, if here is a table at the Ivy's room in Aria, and Matt Kirk is like here.
I don't know if you know, that room is called Table 1 now.
Okay.
This is the
On
Table
that side of the
1
dealer, the
podcast.
dealer's here between these thumbs. Okay. On across from Matt Kirk here is Timofey Kuznetsov. And then on the other side, like over here, is Andrew Roble. And I'm like, come, and they're like doing some weird flippy thing. And Matt Kirk, who likes gambling with me, is like, Brian, yeah, you can come. So I come and sit here in between Timofey and Roble. Anyway, so there's the four of us. It turns out what they're doing is Matt Kirk has two PLO hands here. Okay, I forget, we're on that mirror thing.
Yeah.
And they each have one. And now I get one as well. So we each have one PLO hand and Matt has two. And so then what happens is there's two things that are going on. And if some of this isn't going to make perfect sense, but like just bear with me. But essentially what's happening is there's one flip that happens, and this is just everyone's on their own, and it's $50K each, no juice. So it's a 5-way $50K flip. And but the reason why we're all doing that flip is that what also is happening is each one of Matt Kirk's two hands now flips each one of our hands. And oh yeah, it doesn't matter for this. So each one of his two hands flips each one of our hands individually. And those flips, so that's 6 flips now. They were doing it smaller. It was 50K 4 ways. And then 105 to 100, his two hands versus their two hands.
He was laying
Oh,
juice.
I got you.
But then I join, and now it's 6 nodes for the juice flip. And those flips, so the 50K, we all throw in the money. So he's throwing in 100K, we each throw in 50 in the pot, and whoever wins gets that directly. But then the juice flips are on a piece of paper, and get to split that as the corporation. So the corporation has 6 105 to 100K flips that we just write down the result, right? And I get to join this.
Wait, so those flips are for 100 each or just 105? Or,
No, they're for 100,
100K
but if we
each?
win, we get a 105, and
Right,
if we
they
lose,
get
we
a
get
bump.
100.
okay, so 50K even money flips,
Matt Kirk's
6
an
ways.
animal.
No, a 50K 5-way even money flip.
Sorry, yes. And then the second hand, or sorry,
but
the
then
second
it's
The
part of the
corporation versus that.
Corporation versus each one of his hands.
Uh-huh.
And each of our hands versus one of his hands, 105, 100, 105, 100. Yeah. So if you want to think about it, in EV, there's 6 flips of 105 to 100, of which he's personally losing 15,000 per hand in EV.
Yeah.
And we're each getting 5,000 per hand in EV, which is the sickest gambling spot I've ever been in my life. And Matt Kirk, I think he was losing, and somehow this devolved, and he let me join. And now I'm there with my buddy, his name is David Wells. He's not a big player. He takes like 1% of me, which is like a fucking huge spot for him. And then a couple of my friends have a piece. I'm just like
I
giving.
would love to have a piece of this.
So anyway,
great. Okay.
I'm there and I'm like, oh
printing.
great. I don't even have to I'm not even playing poker today. I'm just like getting a great
You're
spot.
making $5,000
So I start
a hand.
ordering beers and like I'm drinking.
Hello, I'm Brian Rast, the casino.
I'm drinking, and pretty soon at some point, like obviously we start sweating the fucking cards. So we're there, and Matt, from when I sit down, Matt starts losing. He's already tilted, obviously, because he's doing this. And so now like all of us are sweating the cards, and all of a sudden he starts getting soup. Because what happens is obviously it deals out, and then we're sweating the cards when we could just flip it over and the result.
He just
would be
wants
there.
the fucking result now.
So he's getting annoyed at us
Yeah.
because we're delaying it, and he
Yeah.
wants the result, and we're like sweating and
You guys are costing yourself money, by the way.
So Matt's like, so we're costing ourselves money, but it's like, we're all,
So happy.
but then no, it's fun. Like these are fucking huge flips, dude. Like think how much money it's like 55 ways and then 105. I mean, this is fucking massive. Like this is like the biggest I've ever flipped for in my life, basically. So I want to fucking enjoy it. Anyway, Matt's at one point, he's like, if you guys keep sweating the cards, like I'm done. So then at that point, we're like, okay. But the funny thing is, obviously, he's like making it like more plus EV for us because it's like raising the hands per hour. So anyway, we stop sweating it as much and we keep going. We get to a point where, so we're doing this all on the side. Like I'm there and all of a sudden the paper number is like almost like plus 2 million. And so it's like plus 1.5. And then we're like, okay, hey, Matt, we got to settle the paper number before we go if it gets to 2. So sure enough, from there, we win another couple 100,000. It gets to like 1.8, and that's like the peak. And then it all starts going. Matt goes on a heater.
Oh, no.
Starts going up. He basically gets back. By the time it's done, we're doing it for hours, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours. By the time it's done, the paper number is like, from when I started, I think they won a little bit before I got there, but the paper number from when I started was like plus, let's say it's like 300K, but it's like split 3 ways, right? So,
Damn, so the sweat turned into tears.
but I didn't run good in the 50K flips. I probably lost 300 or something in those. So I ended up losing like 200K or 150K or something on the action in like the best spot of my life. Like EV wise, because we did it for 4 hours. Like we probably got in, who knows? Let's just say it was like 80 or hands or 100 hands. Like I'm supposed to make like hundreds of thousands in EV, but like I lost like 150K. But like, but it was
Poor
fun.
friend that had 1%, by the way. That was a lot of money to him. Oh my god.
But it was like that was fun. And that was great. And I wish that was my life every day. I'd be rich.
What?
But like, I'm not. So
Who stopped the action?
Oh yeah, how do you quit those?
Yeah, like
Matt stopped when he was stuck huge and got some back. And then I think, like I said, like I was down with the side flips. I think Matt was up in the side flip. So even though he was close to even on the sheet, he was up more than that with the 50K
the first flip, yeah.
And so like he got back and I think maybe they went back to playing poker, but like I'd been drinking.
What a terrible time to go back to playing poker.
I was like
swing $1.8 million and be like, all right, let's play poker.
I had like 3 beers and was like kind of annoyed because I lost, and I was like, nah, fuck that, I'm out. No poker.
I've never played a game. Almost never played a game where it's devolved to flipping and then it goes back to poker. So
I think they did.
hard.
Well, let me tell you, dude, there are times that big game, the like hybrid or big bet mix or whatever, dude, so there's some sickos who like love the long, like Matt loved long sessions at times. And he was one of these guys who could like play poker and then just flip like a fucking madman and then go back to playing poker again. He's just like,
That's sick.
He's just like weird like that, like unlike most people.
yeah, that's unusual. Because like imagine like you're flipping, like you said, 50, 100, basically 150K a hand, it sounds like.
Yeah.
But like multiple people. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, hey, why don't we go back to the 501K blinds we're playing, and somebody opens to 3K and you have to think about it for real.
Well, here's Matt's thing. he's like one of these guys who plays pretty good when he's doing well. Then he starts losing his mind when he's losing. So he's like, I might as well just flip. So then he flips, but then if he gets it back, then he's like, okay, I'm good to play now.
Oh, it
actually makes
fixes his mental state. I got you. Okay, all right.
He's like, okay,
The
I
reverse
can
martingale.
calm calm down. I've gotten it back. We can play poker again
Wow.
now.
The mental martingale, gets you back.
Yeah. He's like,
Elliot Rowe doesn't teach that one.
we're good, guys. We got it back. It was almost bad, but
And then everyone else is tilted as fuck, and so they can't play fucking right.
Yeah, yeah.
I actually like his style. That's great.
Yeah, it's fucking sharp.
like results are the only thing that matters. Style.
Wow.
Like, no, we're stuck. Oh, no, it's all over. We're going to flip. But no, we're back. We're good. Let's go. Yeah, so that's a fun gambling story. That was my best. I'm pretty sure that was my best EV spot in terms of like just I know I'm getting this EV, like hand to hand and boom. Yeah, I lost. But it was cool. It was fun. I drank. My friend and I enjoyed it. He was there. He was having a good time on the rail.
Until
watching
the
us
end.
print the EV, and then we lost. But that's how gambling goes. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. It's the stories that count.
And here they are, going out into the universe.
That's right. Yeah,
All right. Well, thanks for doing this, dude. I think, is that the pod? Are we done?
I think so. We might be able to squeeze 2 out of this.
All right. Bye, guys.
All right. Bye.
Me and my buddy, we making all of this money. Yeah, I know it's rude to be bragging. They never catching us slacking. Me and my buddy.